Spectacular, thrilling, action-packed, a triumph. Today I'm talking about The Crow from 1994 on VHS, and I'm gonna break down my thoughts on this tragic goth classic. Released May 13th, 1994, The Crow is now 30 years old. With the release of a remake or readaption on August 23rd later this year, I figured it would be a perfect time to talk about The Crow. I'm not gonna talk a bunch about the death of Brandon Lee. I've already done that in a video, you can watch that. I'm gonna try to stick to talking about the movie in this one. First up, let's talk the positives. Number 1, the cast and characters. The obvious being Brandon Lee, who makes this movie. Brandon Lee, who would sleep in his makeup so when he came to production the next day it would look worn, who lost 40 pounds to play this role, whose iconic and legendary performance will be forever tied to his tragic death. Brandon Lee is obviously the title character Eric Draven. I love his performance in this movie. It's very thoughtful, it's very emotional, as it should be. I can't imagine watching this specific version of The Crow with anyone else. His range, from tender and caring to maniac psychopath, and just, damn, what a last movie to work on, you know? Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters, Congo, and Twin Peaks: The Return as Albright. Those are just some of my favorite appearances of him. And he plays one of my top 5 movie cops of all time. It's a thoughtful and deep performance he gives as well. This isn't just a straight action movie. The humility and grief and everything displayed by these characters is performed so well. David Patrick Kelly, also in Twin Peaks: The Return, Twin Peaks the original, Wild at Heart, and of course, The Warriors.
Warriors, come out to play.
I love David Patrick Kelly. If you tell me he's in something, it makes me want to watch it. Rochelle, Darris, Tony Todd, they round out the cast, and again, all of their performances are just perfect. They're what they should be. Another positive, the soundtrack. There's actually an ad for the soundtrack at the end of the movie after the exclusive interview with Brandon Lee. Personal 2 favorite tracks from this are The Cure's Burn and 9 Inch Nails covering Joy Division's Dead Souls. Apparently New Order was approached to do a cover of Love Will Tear Us Apart, which I don't even know if I would consider that a cover because they wrote it and performed it with Ian Curtis in Joy Division, and James O'Barr was a huge Joy Division fan. Sergeant Albright is named after Bernard Summer because for a time Bernard went by Bernard Albright for some reason, and the character Captain Hook in the comic was named after Peter Hook, the bass player. But ultimately, they turned it down, and instead we got 9 Inch Nails covering Joy Division. More positives. The effects. So just Brandon Lee in the makeup, that's enough. You don't even have to have a bunch of crazy special effects. But the surprising amount of miniatures, including at the beginning of the film, the car chase was done with miniatures because they couldn't afford to do a car chase. The deleted Skull Cowboy character and scenes, Michael Berryman from The Hills Have Eyes originally was in this movie as well, playing Skull Cowboy. All of that's removed from this movie, but apparently that happened before Brandon even died. The cinematography in this movie takes what Batman '89 did and kicks it up a notch, you know? The director Alex Proyas originally wanted to shoot it in black and white. Ultimately, the studio wouldn't let him, so he made it as sepia tone as possible and then added blue layers on top of that. So for that to look right and for the blues not to look oversaturated, you would have to have almost no blue things in the scenes you were shooting. Now, specifically, some of my positives in terms of what's on the VHS tape and some of my favorite scenes, lines, interactions. A lot of these VHS tapes have these flashbang bumper openers, and these are there to promote everything from coming soon to theaters to now available on video cassette. This one has a variant with the Crow face artwork. And then something I find very interesting. There is a Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers trailer on this, but it's not called Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. In this trailer, it's called Halloween 6, The Origin of Michael Myers. I had to do some research to find out why the hell that was. Obviously, I figured it was just a working title they were going with, but they actually did promotions with it, which I found interesting. And one of those said promotions is on the Crow VHS. One of the lines I relate to the most is when the hot dog vendor guy is like,
"You know, what this place needs is a good natural catastrophe. Earthquake, tornado."
"We need a catastrophe, man." Movie's essentially a revenge film starring a goth Jesus, who makes Jesus jokes.
Jesus Christ walks into a hotel. Ow. He hands the innkeeper 3 nails and he asks, "Don't you ever fucking die? You put me up for the night?"
Some of the interesting dialogue in here. Childhood's over the moment you know you're gonna die. I like how he recites Edgar Allan Poe.
I heard a tapping, as of someone gently rapping. rapping at my chamber door.
The classic lines like, "It can't rain all the time." Every one of Eric Draven and Albright's encounters, from the curb to his apartment where he's wearing the hat and he's in his underwear. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm getting old, but this movie is gets more emotional to me every time I watch it. So those are all the positives. The negatives, I'm gonna be honest, I'm having a hard time thinking of negatives for this movie. I would think that negative is that the movie's legacy is tied to Brandon Lee's death. I would much rather have him have not died and we still get this movie, and he goes on to have a great career in life, because Brandon Lee was awesome. Much in a similar way how Heath Ledger's death is tied to the Joker in Dark Knight. Let's talk about that exclusive footage at the end. This is the last interview that Brandon Lee ever gave, and a lot of this footage has been seen before this tape, apparently, but there's a few parts that haven't been, at least up until the release of this. In interviews, Brandon Lee is always thoughtful and articulate.
This is a person who has been pushed right to the limits of his ability to cope with what is going on, and in a sense is quite mad sometimes. In a sense is completely insane.
That's one of the things I love about him. People say that about Bruce Lee, I think, as well. You know, people always talking about his "be like water" quote. I don't know, there's just something about Brandon Lee to me, you know? Look at this picture of him in the coat, playing a Game Boy on the set. Like, that's just a chill dude. That's a dude you want to hang out with. That's a cool guy right there. Overall, I'm gonna give The Crow 5 out of 5 hearts. I love this movie. I don't have any issues with it. No notes. Tell me what you think about it in the comments below. And remember, buildings burn, people die, but subscribing is forever. Thanks for watching.